This is the Washington Times front page for Tuesday, July 6th, 2021. Thanks for joining us. I'm George Gerbo. Stray bullets in Times Square and widespread violence in New York City is forcing leaders to fine-tune recent changes to policing and rethink revolving door policies. Tom Howe reports the New York Police Benevolent Association and other lobbies say anti-police rhetoric is driving cops and detectives to quit or seek early retirement, but a reversal of New York bail reforms tops their wish list. They say the bail reforms, enacted at the state level in January 2020 to help defendants who can't afford release pending trial, are handcuffing judges who want to keep dangerous suspects in jail. There have been 826 shooting victims and 718 shooting incidents in New York City since the start of 2021, a 36% rise in victims over the same time last year, according to the NYPD. Burglary is down 24%, but grand larceny of autos is up 25%. On Capitol Hill, combating China's aggressive economic and military moves has become one of the few issues capable of forging bipartisan consensus in Washington. Congressional reporter Harris Alec reports the newfound agreement on confronting China is of note given the deep divide on nearly every other issue facing Congress. The unity was on display when the Senate recently passed the U.S. Innovation and Competition Act. The legislation boosts investment in science and technology research to counter China's growing dominance in microchip manufacturing, cybersecurity, and other high-tech fields. In total, 18 Republicans voted with 50 Democrats to approve the legislation, and the 32 Republican senators who opposed the measure did so because they believed it didn't go far enough. Just a few years ago, Republicans and Democrats both had a different line, with many viewing China as a burgeoning market for American-made goods, rather than an economic and geopolitical rival. Hospitals and blood banks nationwide are grappling with a blood supply shortage amid a rising number of trauma cases, organ transplants, and surgeries. Sen Wu-Tan reports this year is particularly challenging since many blood drives have been canceled and more patients are receiving treatments that might require a blood transfusion. Additionally, patients are scheduling appointments that were postponed during the coronavirus pandemic, adding to the growing demand for blood. Blood inventories are at their lowest level since the beginning of the pandemic, with community blood centers seeing a 5 to 15% increase in demand according to the nonprofit group America's Blood Centers. Blood centers try to keep at least 3 days' worth of blood supply on their shelves, or ideally 5 days' worth of supply. Yet they're seeing less than 2 days' supply for certain blood types. A reminder that you can find all these stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page. Don't have access to the Times yet? Visit WashingtonTimes.com/George and get 25% off your annual subscription. In Central America, Nicaraguan President Daniel Ortega is establishing a full-blown dictatorship according to regional experts, who warn the jailing of opposition figures and gunning down of protesters represents a challenge for U.S. interests. National Security Team leader Guy Taylor reports the Biden administration has struggled to produce an impactful response in the wake of an increasingly brazen series of moves by the 75-year-old Nicaraguan strongman. Ortega spent June accelerating a power grab that he and his immediate family have been building for years. Despite U.S., Canadian, and European Union sanctions already in place against him over his violent crackdown on opposition protesters in 2018, Ortega triggered fresh scorn last month when his government began arresting potential rivals in Nicaragua's November 7th election. And finally, an estimated 15,000 tourists flocked to Roswell, New Mexico last week for its annual UFO festival, which combines serious lectures on a host of paranormal subjects with Americana offerings. Most famous is the site of an alleged flying saucer crash in 1947, Ben Wolfgang reports Roswell has fully embraced its legacy and uses it to draw tourist dollars, and virtually everyone in town has gotten in on the action. City officials say they've worked hard to cultivate Roswell's reputation as the official UFO capital of the world. Just around the corner from the International UFO Museum sits a bakery with paintings on its facade of aliens holding cakes and donuts. Up the street, the city's barbershop has window drawings of aliens getting haircuts, and everything from restaurants to gas stations all have at least a small nod to aliens, UFOs, and the unexplained. Find all of today's front page stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page or on the Washington Times app, and subscribe for free to the front page. Just search Washington Times on your favorite podcast platforms. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at WashTimes for breaking news, sports, commentary, and more. For the Washington Times, I'm George Gerbo.